Let's just put it this way. I would stay in a loveless marriage just to make sure I could be with Lena every day. That's how much I love Lena.
For 25 years, Kelly Ripa has walked onto television with a smile that millions of people know. But what if that smile has been hiding a much harder story? Behind the cameras, Kelly has faced painful losses, harsh judgment, family changes, and a health problem that suddenly forced her away from the show she almost never leaves. At 55, the woman America sees every morning is entering a very different chapter of her life. And some of what she has been through is far more heartbreaking than most viewers ever realized. Before Kelly Ripa became one of the most familiar faces on daytime television, she was simply a young woman from New Jersey with a dream that many people around her did not fully understand. Kelly was born in 1970 in Stratford, New Jersey. Her father worked as a bus driver and later became a union president, while her mother stayed home and raised the family. There was no famous last name waiting to open doors for Kelly. There was no powerful Hollywood family behind her. She had to find her own way, and that is exactly what she tried to do. Kelly left college to chase acting work, a decision that was not easy for her practical working-class family to accept. But she kept going. The early years were not glamorous. She took small jobs. She appeared in commercials. She dealt with rejection. She kept auditioning, even when there was no guarantee that the next opportunity would come. Then, in 1990, everything began to change. Kelly landed the role of Haley Vaughn on All My Children. To many viewers, a soap opera may look simple, but behind the scenes, it can be one of the toughest jobs in television. Actors have to memorize huge amounts of dialogue and work at an incredible speed. Kelly learned to handle that pressure. She showed up. She learned her lines. She worked long hours. And slowly, the young actress from New Jersey started becoming a star. But there was something else happening during those years. Kelly was building a work ethic that would follow her for the rest of her life. She was learning that success was not just about talent. It was about showing up when you were tired, showing up when you were scared, and showing up when nobody knew your name. Then came the opportunity that changed her life forever. In 2001, Kelly joined the daytime show that had been associated with Regis Philbin. Suddenly, she was no longer just an actress. She was stepping into a live television world where millions of people would judge her every morning. There was nowhere to hide. If she made a mistake, people saw it. If she looked tired, people noticed. If she was emotional, people noticed. And if she wanted to succeed, she had to make it look effortless. She did succeed. For decades, Kelly became one of the most recognizable faces in American daytime television. But behind that success was a price. Because while millions of viewers watched Kelly smile, laugh, and make conversation, her life outside the studio was becoming more complicated. And the next chapter would reveal just how difficult it can be to build a family while living your entire life in front of the public. Chapter 2. Motherhood. In the Spotlight. In 1996, Kelly Ripa married her All My Children co-star Mark Consuelos. Their relationship moved quickly, and soon they were building something very different from the world Kelly had grown up in. They were building a family. Over the years, Kelly and Mark welcomed 3 children, Michael, Lola, and Joaquin. From the outside, it looked like a dream. A successful actress, a successful television host, a loving husband, 3 children, a beautiful home. But the pictures never showed the whole story. Because being a mother is hard. Being a mother while working in television every single day is even harder. And being a mother while millions of people are watching you can make that pressure feel impossible to escape. Kelly had to wake up early. Very early. She had to get ready for television, prepare for the show, remember what was happening that morning, and then walk in front of the cameras looking energetic. But life at home did not stop just because the cameras were about to turn on. Children still got sick. Children still needed their parents. There were difficult nights. There were mornings when sleep was probably the last thing Kelly had enough of. Yet when the cameras came on, the audience expected Kelly Ripa. The funny Kelly. The energetic Kelly. The woman who could smile and make millions of people feel like everything was fine. That created a difficult problem. What happens when everything is not fine? Kelly has spoken over the years about the guilt that can come with trying to balance motherhood and a demanding career. There are moments a parent never wants to miss. School events, important milestones, family moments that only happen once. But television does not always wait. The show has a schedule. The cameras have a schedule. Millions of viewers have a schedule. And Kelly had to keep showing up. That meant sometimes choosing work when she wanted to be somewhere else. It meant carrying the feeling that she might not always be giving her children as much time as she wanted. And that kind of guilt can follow a parent for years. The strange part is that millions of people were watching Kelly every morning, yet they were not really seeing what was happening inside her home. They saw the finished version. They saw the smile. They saw the jokes. They saw the confidence. But they did not see every late night. They did not see every worry. They did not see every moment when Kelly may have wondered whether she was doing enough. And then something else began to change. Her children started growing up. Michael, Lola, and Joaquin were no longer little kids running around the house. They began creating lives of their own. For any parent, that moment can be emotional. The house becomes quieter. The children need you in different ways. And suddenly, the years you thought would last forever seem to have passed in a moment. For Kelly, this change happened while she was still working in front of millions of people. Her children were growing up while the public continued watching their mother on television. And that created another painful truth. Kelly had spent decades building a career around being present. But life was slowly teaching her that some things cannot be controlled. Children grow up. People change. Families enter new chapters. And some chapters eventually come to an end. But motherhood was not the only part of Kelly's life being watched. Her appearance was being watched too. For years, strangers and tabloids had opinions about her body, her weight, her workouts, her diet, even the way she looked in photographs. It seemed that no matter what Kelly did, somebody had something to say. And then one photograph turned that pressure into something much bigger. A bikini photo, shared by her husband, sparked a wave of criticism. People questioned why a woman in her late 40s should look that way in public. Mark Consuelos pushed back and defended his wife. But the bigger issue was already clear. Kelly's body had become a public conversation, and suddenly, the woman who had spent years entertaining millions of people was being judged for something completely personal. That was only the beginning, because the older Kelly became, the more intense the conversation around her appearance seemed to get. And this raises a question that is much bigger than Kelly Ripa. Why are women in the public eye expected to look young forever? If they age naturally, people criticize them. If they work hard to stay fit, people criticize them. If they admit to cosmetic treatments, people criticize them. And if they refuse to talk about their appearance, people still talk about it. Kelly found herself caught in the middle. She could not win. But instead of completely hiding from the conversation, she started speaking about it. She has openly discussed her fitness routine and some of the treatments she has used over the years. For Kelly, staying fit was not simply about looking good. She had a demanding job. She needed energy. She needed stamina. She needed to be ready for live television. But the public often saw only the result. They saw the body. They did not see the hours. They did not see the discipline. They did not see the pressure. And perhaps most importantly, they did not see the emotional cost. For decades, Kelly had been expected to appear almost effortless. Perfect hair. Perfect smile. Perfect energy. Perfect confidence. But nobody is perfect. And Kelly was beginning to enter a stage of life where that impossible standard became harder to ignore. She was no longer the young actress from All My Children. She was a woman in her 40s and then 50s who had spent almost her entire adult life in front of cameras, and the world had watched her age. But while the public was focused on her appearance, Kelly was dealing with something much deeper: loss. Because sometimes the hardest moments in life are not about what people say about you. They are about the people who are no longer there. And in 2020, Kelly would face one of the most painful losses of her adult life. A friend from the very beginning of her career was suddenly gone. His name was John Callahan, and the way Kelly had to deal with that loss would reveal a side of her that viewers rarely saw.